Hi, my name is Jackie Trejo and I'm from Southern California.
So I'm Emily and I'm from the UK.
My name is Melba Cito from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
I'm Josephine from Sweden.
My name is Kristen Ray and I'm from Providence, Rhode Island.
My name is Chris Overdoon, Brightwood, California.
My name's Yelena and I live at the Gold Coast in Australia.
My name is Lauren Humphrey and I live in Connecticut.
Hi climbing mamas, my name is Kylie.
I'm Mel and I live in Queensland, Australia.
I'm Amanda with Adventuring with Kids. Me and my family live in Utah.
My name's Blair and I'm from Los Angeles.
I'm Jen, aka Mum.Peter, and I live in Hertfordshire in the UK.
My climbing journey, I was at the top of my game, really, my own personal game. And then I got pregnant and I was huffing and puffing up a wall and thinking, God, this hangover's a bit punchy. But it wasn't a hangover, it was this little one.
I started climbing about 8 years ago and I got pregnant about 6 months after I started. I was pretty worried about how it would impact my climbing, actually. But I climbed my entire pregnancy. I stopped 5 days before I had Eleanor because my climbing shoes really didn't fit anymore. The last time I put them on, they pushed all the water up out of my feet and onto my ankles, and they hung over my climbing shoes.
I climbed for about 18 months to 2 years in my 20s, and then I fell pregnant. And at the time, I was rarely climbing with other women, let alone mums or families. And so I just stopped. I didn't even consider climbing through my pregnancy.
I climbed through both of my pregnancies. I was fortunate enough to have a pretty solid community of women and families that supported me through all of that, and I really enjoyed the experience quite a bit, actually. It really taught me to kind of slow down and forget about some of the extraneous things that go with climbing, like grades and how hard you're climbing and how often, and just totally started to have fun again.
This is Evelyn. She's been climbing her entire existence from when she was a tiny little seed and we went mountaineering in Chamonix up until 2 days before she was born and I was still bouldering, which felt amazing to be able to climb all the way through my pregnancy. I was very lucky.
I have one daughter named Whitney and she's almost 3 years old, and I think she was about 9 months old when I went back to climbing. Motherhood's affected my climbing in a lot of ways. I had a really terrible pregnancy, so I didn't get to climb through my pregnancy like I had hoped to, which was kind of disappointing. And then when I did get to go back to it, it gave me a sense of normalcy. When you first start off being a mom, it's so much of your own things go away because you have this little like blob to keep alive. Having climbing there in the beginning of being a mom was super crucial in helping me reconnect with who I am.
With my first, I climbed until I was about 6 months pregnant. This pregnancy, I feel like I know my body a lot better, and I'm still climbing and I don't plan on stopping, you know, fingers crossed, Lord willing, until I have the baby. When you're pregnant and you're in just the mothering stage of life in general, the more you can do, the better you feel, but the worse you feel, then it's hard to do anything physically, and climbing's among that. So this is something for me personally, it's really like near and dear close to my heart, because I feel like it's part of, you know, even like postpartum depression and stuff, is if you can't get back to doing things that you love or exercising, things that really help in depression, then of course it's going to be like a downward spiral.
I climbed until the end of both my pregnancies. Actually, I climbed the same day as our little one, Viggo, decided that it was time to come out. But that's another story. I didn't love being pregnant. I guess everyone has their individual experience of pregnancy and childbirth and the recovery process afterwards. But to me, to be able to climb through the whole pregnancy really meant a lot to me.
When I was pregnant for most of the winter months, so I was only able to climb outdoors till about 3 months. And then I did a couple of days on ice when I was about 7 or 6 months pregnant. I climbed indoors till I was about 6 months using a 5-point harness, and then it started hurting like a motherfucker. So I stopped at about that because my hips felt like they were separating every time I got lowered, because those 5-point harnesses aren't that great for when you're pregnant.
Motherhood has influenced my climbing in ways that I didn't necessarily expect. One way I did expect is that it does make the logistics much more challenging. Climbing hard or a lot is rarely ever the goal. We've kind of joked about how our new projecting is just getting to the crag.
So all of a sudden you have this narrowing of who you can climb with and when you're gonna do it. It just all becomes more challenging. But all those challenges, I think, are what really makes it be all the more rewarding. Going to the gym the other night, I went after my son was in bed and my husband got home from work, and I was meeting a friend, and I just really didn't feel like going because I was exhausted and pregnant and whatever, but I was meeting a friend, so I was gonna go. All those things, mental, physical, emotional, all those areas of your life, I felt rejuvenated just from that session, because it's a sport that I think touches on all those really well.
Motherhood has influenced my climbing in the fact that I had not climbed before I had kids. So all I know is climbing with my children. So I'm used to how hard it is and packing all the extra things and the fits of the crag and the games to distract them and all of that. It's insanely weird and easy when I don't have my kids. Bizarre.
Motherhood has changed me a lot on many levels in life. Mostly in ways I experience as positive, but on the negative side, motherhood made me more scared of climbing. I often think about what would happen if something goes wrong on the wall, or if I make a mistake. And with fear comes hesitation and doubt in yourself and your own capability. So I feel that I need to find a way to let go of that fear when it comes. Because sometimes it feels like I love climbing more than I'm good at it right now, due to my fear. But maybe I'm too hard on myself.
Motherhood's affected my climbing in a lot of ways. I'm a lot more scared now, not gonna lie. Prior to kids, you're willing to take more risks and do things because you're not responsible for someone else in the same way. You're responsible for your climbing partner, but you don't have a kid at home waiting for you. So, in that way, a lot has changed. For a little while, I didn't think that we would climb trad ever again. If we did, it would be after she was an adult. It definitely changed my risk-taking. I try to be smarter instead of just whaling myself up climbs. I try to take my time and really work the problem as opposed to just muscling my way up.
I battle a lot of mental demons these days. Physically, I'm kind of back up there where I was, but climbing still gives me the strength to keep going. If I didn't have climbing, I'd be in a dark place, I think.
Being a mum, I guess, definitely makes me look at the risks in a different way than if if I'd been climbing when I was, you know, single and 20. You know that it's not just your own life. And yeah, sometimes I think I have those negative thoughts like, oh, am I being selfish, you know, taking risks. I just, I feel like facing my fears head on has sort of transferred not just from climbing but to other areas of my life as well.
The ways it has changed my climbing that I did not expect necessarily was it's made me a more conscientious climber and partner. I'm much more in tune with what I'm doing and what my partner is doing, and the communication and the safety, which is great, obviously. It also kind of led me to this thing that I call mom psych, where because the logistics are so challenging, you don't get out as often. So when you do, you better go for it. And so that led me to actually climbing a bit harder than I have. It taught me to push a little bit because of the time constraints and because, hey, I pushed 2 kids out, so I'm pretty sure that I can get up this route.
Motherhood sort of ruined my mental headspace for climbing. It stopped me from trying numerous problems that may have given me that fear or anxiety of it being too tall or the landing being too treacherous. I've slowly been rebuilding it and rebuilding my confidence back into climbing. I never once gave it a thought of something being scary before I was a mother. But I've slowly been rebuilding my headspace. I've slowly been rebuilding my strength back. I'm currently stronger now than I was before I got pregnant. Stronger than I've ever been in my climbing career total, and I've been climbing nearly 10 years. And now I've been setting goals that I never thought were necessarily possible. And I'm actually well on my way to achieving those goals. So it's very rewarding in that regard.
Climbing has taught me so many things, especially on, you know, how to approach life. I always tell people it's one of the most effective ways to teach you how to let go of the petty things. Because in that moment when you're pushing past a crux or a sequence, that's the only thing you're thinking about is clipping that next bolt or not falling. Climbing is the one thing that really gives me that feeling of, I guess, self-preservation. And when you can conquer that fear or that moment when you've been struggling for so long, you realize you can really conquer anything.
Climbing for me it changed my entire life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it changed who I'm friends with, how I view the world, what I value, what I do for fun, what I do for travel. It's huge for me. It's my passion, and I love being able to share it with my daughter. I love going climbing with her. When she was little, I primarily took her bouldering, both because it was easier with a baby and because I lost my lead head for a while after I had her. It was really hard for me to get on ropes. I was really afraid, mostly of the consequences. But as she's gotten older, it's gotten a little bit better, and I've really gotten my lead head back. And she and I have been climbing a lot of ropes this summer. I just took her up a multi-pitch this weekend in New Hampshire. And when we were topping out, a tourist basically said, "You let your son do that?" And I said, "My daughter." Come on.
Our son was born with a rare syndrome, and motherhood sort of swallowed me whole. And so it took me 6 years to get back to climbing. And one of the big motivators for that was that I wanted to show my children how their mum played. Climbing brings me joy on so many levels. One of our biggest goals as parents is to support our children in finding happiness. And part of that is taking the time to do the things that make us happy.
Look,
My little one, Ashley, he has autism, and it was quite a challenge at first trying to get him outdoors and get him to push the boundaries with what he's physically capable of doing. And we've just taken that little bit by little bit, but he's actually probably my best adventure buddy now. And the best thing about climbing is that he took to it like a natural. You know, he's on the wall like a little monkey, and I don't know why we waited so long.
I think climbing is particularly amazing for women because there's nothing like that sense of being so strong. And I can't wait to introduce Evelyn to climbing because I think obviously it's my passion and I would love her to love it too. But it really teaches you about your body, to respect that, to be brave, to be collaborative, to be supportive, and they're all things that I think are so valuable. So to teach those via climbing, I think is going to be great.
So I really hope that my girls will climb and that it'll help them to feel really confident and that they'll feel proud of their body, that it's, you know, strong enough to get them up a wall, get them to wherever they want to go. And I also think getting outdoors and climbing, it just naturally lends itself to an appreciation of the environment. So I just hope that I can take my girls on lots of climbing adventures as they get older, and they'll just develop a real love for the mountains, and that they'll want to do their best to preserve and, you know, protect the environment. Yeah.
Motherhood while climbing is tricky. It's hard to juggle. Yeah, it's hard to juggle a baby and your climbing needs. But from the start, I wanted her to be part of it. So I was breastfeeding in the middle of the climbing gym. We've taken her to Rocklands. We've taken her to Font in France. She's part of the climbing scene now, and she's a brilliant climber herself. She hasn't been up the wall yet, but she's up and down anything she can.
We started climbing right after my daughter was born. We went on our first camping trip / climbing trip and fell in love. And ever since that day, our whole life basically revolves around camping and climbing trips and the climbing gym. It's influenced every aspect of our lives, from how we eat to, you know, go to bed early every night. When you need to get exercise, it's great for that. It's great when you're stressed, just to get out on the wall. It's just you and the rock. Everyone loves climbing, like down to my little daughter. It's become a lifestyle for us. In Utah here, we're super lucky. We live within about 15 minutes of 5 different canyons, so the climbing is amazing. Just a couple hours from southern Utah and the desert. Last year we spent over 45 days camping, so it's, you know, climbing.
What I do love is being a mom and bringing my kids on adventures. I'm really grateful that we found a way to create time and space for climbing in parenthood, because honestly, I believe that climbing and the fact that I allow myself to do things I'm passionate about makes me a better mom and maybe also a better person.
Climbing is important to my life because it helps me stay sane. It helps me connect with my husband and continue to connect even after we've been not sleeping and dealing with being parents, new parents. It's also really important to me to share it with my daughter. My goals have changed in the sense that I now have an even longer term goal inside the sport, which is to make sure that she gets the best experience that she can inside of it.
Climbing for me has kind of morphed and evolved into many different things. It taught me to set goals and persevere until I meet them, how to channel fear into fuel, and how to kind of turn my brain off and take risks, which kind of all of these things that climbing has taught me has kind of seeped into the rest of my life, which is why I'm so grateful for it. Physically kind of taught me how to use movement to solve problems, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally. Taught me that meditation in motion is my thing and what keeps me sane and allows me to be the best version of myself. It brought me into a community that is, just absolutely a foundation in my life to this day, of mentors and of people that have and still do mean a ton to me.
Climbing is everything to me. Physically, it's my workout. Emotionally, it's my stress relief. It's my release. It's my outlet when the days or the weeks have been stressful or challenging. Mentally, climbing is my passion. I daydream about climbing constantly. Being outdoors, being in nature, being covered in chalk, covered in dirt, covered in sunblock. I am a die-hard weekend warrior, and climbing keeps me sane. Becoming a parent doesn't mean that your life is over. It essentially just means that, everything's gonna take a little bit longer to get done.
I've been abseiling for many years. I abseil waterfalls, canyons, and I'm outdoors all the time. I'm an avid explorer. Being outdoors, adventuring, that is my passion. And as a mum, it's not always easy to get out there unless I have my little one by my side. So climbing is something that we're able to share, and I'm not just a mum, I'm Kylie too, and so I need that passion.
Motherhood is not easy, and finding balance can help us to keep our cup full. It can help us to dissolve the accumulated stresses and be the best that we can be for our children and actually have the energy to enjoy raising them. The community that I've connected with locally and worldwide are amazing. We come from all walks of life, but we connect with each other on this ridiculous passion that we have of a collaboration of clambering up mountains and wrestling pebbles. I'm so grateful that climbing has brought me all these amazing things.
It's really exciting to see where this journey is going to go. And what our future holds. Whatever it is, it's going to have climbing in it. And climbing now is less about the grades and more about having fun as a family. And I'm excited for that as a future.
When you work on a project and you find yourself trying over and over and over again to send it clean, you endure the entire spectrum of emotions. From a sense of failure, determination, devastation, to anger. Like how many of us have sworn on a climb, or when we take it a fall, we just can't get it. You experience power and suffering, pride, joy, and elation. It's an amazing form of therapy that happens in one route. Sometimes in one moment. And when you finally get that move or you get to the top of your project, all those emotions are then released, bound and released, and you feel a part of your soul has been calmed and you've opened a powerful aspect of yourself that you can only get in climbing. That's what I believe, at least.
I get so impressed of all of you amazing climber mamas out there. Every single one of you is a huge inspiration to me, and I'm glad that you share your stories and experiences. It's really motivating. Take care. Bye.
Climbing Mama's video.
one.
I'm thankful that you can't smell through a camera because right now I smell like goats and wee sodden hay. Yes.
Yeah.
nice burp. Nice burp.
Climbing means a lot to me on all those. Yeah, we need to try that again.
Oh my god, baby brain. She can't remember the other question.
And I think I covered everything. As my dad watches me awkwardly.
Hey! Just wanted to put this little cheeky thank you at the end to all the mums who got involved with this project and shared their journey from their heart. Love you ladies so much. You have opened my mind and, you know, hundreds of other minds out there to what is possible when you're a mum and you still want to go find your stoke and climb and get chalky. So thank you for being rad and for letting me hound you with emails and messages about photos and videos of the last few months. Eternally grateful, and this is for you. Enjoy. Bye.